You're listening to the Snob OS podcast, the podcast for Apple snobs. Yo, this is Terrence Gaines, aka Brother Tech.
And this is Nika Montford, aka Tech Savvy Diva.
And welcome back to the Snob OS show, the show for Apple snobs, where we talk all things Apple and then some. We definitely want to welcome you back to another action-packed episode of the Snob OS show. This is episode 269. So we definitely want to thank everybody for hanging out with us for so long. We definitely want to thank our financial supporters. If you want to be a financial supporter of the Snob OS show, please go to patreon.com/snoboscast. And as a financial supporter, we give you a little thank you. And that includes getting the show early because you get to watch it live as we record it. You get to be a member of our snobist community. And like I said, we get the show a little bit early as a thank you. So we definitely want to thank you for our financial supporters. And we're going to jump right into it because, like I mentioned, it's an action-packed show. This is going to be a all Apple episode, specifically the recap of WWDC 24. For those who don't know, who are living under a rock, every year Apple does its worldwide developer conference, and it gives us a sneak peek via the keynote of all of the cool software that Apple plans on launching later this year. Apple did not support this year, as it has added to and included a bunch of software, a lot of technology, a lot of services that'll come out this fall. Of course, the one thing everybody was looking forward to and what Apple finally released is their take on AI. And what Apple calls it is Apple Intelligence. And I'm reading straight from their press release. Introducing Apple Intelligence, the personal intelligence system that puts powerful generative models at the core of iPhone, iPad, and Mac. So unlike the AI offerings from OpenAI, the offerings from Microsoft Copilot, a little bit, but mostly like OpenAI, Gemini, and Copilot, most of it has been online offerings. And what I mean by that is it uses information from the internet to create, to train, to create, and to offer that intelligence to end users. So if I go to Copilot, Gemini, OpenAI, or ChatGPT rather, and put in a query, it's going to use the information from the internet to provide the best answer. And that's what they are calling AI. Again, it ain't intelligent because it ain't thinking for itself, but the moniker we use is AI. So we just gonna have to run with it, right? Apple's version is doing something a little bit. And what I mean by a little bit, a lot different, because they are not using the data from the internet. It's not training its services and its offerings from websites, from, social media posts, from wikis, from any of that stuff. It is using the information that you, the user, have provided via your devices. So if you have been an iPhone user since the iPhone first came out, you have been securely training your own personal AI. So when Apple finally announces this Apple Intelligence, it's not pulling data from the internet, it's pulling data from you to learn your habits, to learn how you use the devices, and it's bottling that up, training its AI to better help you in your daily devices, whether it be your schedule, whether it be writing information like in mail, whether it be, creating presentations in Keynote, whether it be, helping you with tasks and reminders, all that's coming from you. It's not coming from the internet. It's not scraping anything. It's not pulling in anything, which reason why I'm bringing this up, it's less likely to have false information or misleading information. Unlike the internet, like we say, garbage in, garbage out. We know the internet can be the best, worst place on earth. So, you have to take what you get from the internet, not necessarily with a grain of salt, but you can't take that as the ipso facto when you're doing a query. Unlike Apple's intelligence, it's pulling information that you have given it. So it's much likely to be more, in my opinion, to be more useful and also to be more secure, because of course, Apple went to links to let you know that this is all secure. It's most of it, 90% of it is going to be on device. So it's not going to be sharing information with Apple. There is a section that they call it Apple Private Cloud Compute. And basically what that's going to do is accelerate the ability to create this information and serve it back to you. But then even with that, Apple's like, it's only going to run on Apple M1 servers. It's not going to share information with Apple. We're not going to be able to pull that information. All we're going to use Apple Compute for is processing power and synchronization, to be able to synchronize the data. It learns the data that it gives to you, sharing that, syncing that across your devices. So that's pretty, I want to say that's pretty much, but that is the ins and outs of Apple's intelligence. Of course, they're going to incorporate that into all of its native applications, from mail to calendar to contacts to messages, you name it. Apple is going to utilize its Apple intelligence on the devices to give you a better experience. So real quick, what was your take on the whole announcement of Apple intelligence?
I think of all of the different AI we've seen, whether it be text generative models in general, I think Apple so far has the best approach. And I think this for a couple of reasons. First, people want AI to make their lives easier, to help them with productivity type activities that cuts down time for them doing things. In the actual announcement, they highlighted several apps, including Mail, and I think it was Notes. And the Apple person who was talking about this, she kind of put it around her picking her mom up from the airport and doing lunch. And so the email was able to pull up the mom's flight information. And at the same time, her mom had mentioned some restaurant they were going to go at in her text messages. It was able to pull all of those different pieces together to give her one visual of all the things that she needed to do as far as picking her mom up, getting to the restaurant to eat. And that's the thing that people want. I saw something on Twitter once. It was like, I want my AI to do things in essence. It's like, I want AI to do things for me and not do art and music for me. Essentially saying they want to be able to have AI to take tasks off their plate so they can do the art and the music of it. They don't need the AI to do the art and music for them. They want to do it themselves, and they want AI to cut out, some of the additional steps that they have to do in their everyday tasks to free up time for them to do that. So I think the approach that they've taken so far with what the Apple intelligence actually does is going to reach people and give them what they've said they've been wanting. On the data privacy front, the fact that they are using your data to train for you specifically, if you think about even Siri, how she can differentiate between the different voices of people who are in the same house, who may have a HomePod or a HomePod Mini. It's those types of things. They understand the way you speak. They can recognize your voice, even when you're typing out, messages on your sending a text or whatever. You get the predictive text that's kind of like in your voice, the way you kind of spell things, and it can predict. It's doing all of this based on you, the individual, and your data. And a lot of times in some of these other generative AI tools, like you said, they're scraping the internet, and Apple is giving you layers. The first layer is we're only training on you, what you do on your personal device. The second one is, okay, so it's a little bit more if you, depending on what you're doing. So we're going to store it in a cloud, but again, we don't have access to it. And the final level to that is the integration with OpenAI that says, hey, the first two levels, they give you some stuff, but it could be more if you want to use OpenAI, but we're going to ask you every single time if you want us to go and pull that data that's scraped from all over the internet.
Right.
You can say,
And
yeah, you can say,
right.
yeah, give it to me, or nah, I'm good. I don't want no OpenAI stuff on my personal device.
Right. And the reason why that's important is because when you're using ChatGPT, that option, when Apple Intelligence finally rolls out, any information or any queries or any prompts that you put into ChatGPT, ChatGPT is training itself off of that. And that's going to be utilized and shared with everybody else, everybody else who uses ChatGPT. Unlike Apple Intelligence, any queries, any searches, any helps with rewrites, Apple does a good job of kind of breaking down how it's going to use this to help you write better notes, write better text messages,
giving you multiple options, and
it
iterates over it again. If that's not quite what you want, we'll give you another example.
Yeah. Right. It's going to help you write better email messages, blog posts, all that information that you're giving it, those queries, those prompts, those rewrites, those suggestions, that's for you. Yeah. And it's only going to be shared to you on your devices. Right. But Apple realized, like you mentioned, that, I may want to query the internet because I'm pretty sure somebody out there has a better way to make brownies. Right. Yeah. So I may want to ask the internet, hey, I've got eggs, flour, sugar, some chocolate chips, help me make the best,
brownies from these, ingredients that I have.
From these ingredients that I got, right?
Yeah.
If you've never done that before, Siri ain't gonna be able to help you, right? Mm-hmm. But the internet may be able to help you. So Apple being able to say, all right, ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot, when they actually add those integrations at the launch of Apple Intelligence, is only gonna be ChatGPT via OpenAI, but later they're more than welcome to add, Google's Gemini or whatever the case may be. But all that to say, Apple Siri, your devices may not have the best answers. So Apple has integrated a way for you to be able to use, other AI systems to query that information. But Apple's making sure now that this is going outside of Siri, this is going outside of your devices. So good luck, and I'm not saying good luck. I'm not saying good luck as if that's a bad thing, but it's just like, just know that this information that you share,
you're opening yourself up. Yeah,
exactly. Yep. And that's, we'll make sure to put links in the show notes about everything that's included with Apple Intelligence. It's a long blog post, and they kind of like you said, highlight the priority notifications. They highlight how it integrates and groups similar email messages into one thread. So if you have a particular subject that you've got multiple emails about, for instance, we were talking at the top of the show about how I pulled out of Apple stock too soon, and I've got a bunch of emails about confirmations on selling Apple stock, with Apple Intelligence. If I would have done that within Apple Intelligence, it would have grouped all those emails or those trade confirmations down into one section so I can quickly go through and see those, versus trying to filter through my email inbox right now that's already full, that's got tons and tons of messages. Apple knows that I've, got a bunch of emails about that. So it's like, hey, let's group all those together, So just going down the list of all the different features, they've got information in notes, they let you, what they call it, Gemoji. I forget the name of it. Genmoji, to where you can actually, similar to how you can draw an image in Copilot or Gemini or ChatGPT or not ChatGPT, that's not images. But anyway, you can actually create like your own emoji, because it's taking photos that you have stored of yourself in the Photos app, and it gives you a animation. It doesn't give you a real life thing.
What is it? How do you say it? Caricature?
Yeah, caricature.
Yeah. Not a real photo image,
because what Apple doesn't want you to do,
of you.
Right. Because what Apple doesn't want to do is give you the tools to be able to create deep fakes of anybody. So any sort of imagery that you use Apple Intelligence to make, It's going to be emojis. It's going to be that Genmoji to where you can create an avatar of yourself, and you can put that in different scenarios, like at a birthday party or at the bowling alley or at the beach or whatever the case may be. But it is going to be an illustration or an animation that you can't necessarily fake off as something real, because Apple don't want no parts of that.
Right.
So that's pretty much the ins and outs of the Apple Intelligence. Important thing to note that you want to keep an eye on at the launch, Apple Intelligence via Siri, because you'll actually invoke Siri to kind of start these queries or start these conversations or prompts. It'll only be available on iPhone 15 Pro and iPhone 15 Pro Max, in addition to any iPad or any Mac that has at least an M1. I'll have to confirm that.
Yeah, they said at least M1.
Okay. So any Apple Silicon Mac and any iPhone 15 Pro or Pro Max. So if you are hyped about getting, Apple's version of artificial intelligence, and you've got an iPhone 12 or a 13 or a 14 or a 15, you may want to consider when those new devices roll out. I'm pretty sure they're going to announce the iPhone 16, I would guess.
Yeah, probably.
If you're interested in Apple Intelligence, you may want to stick with at least an iPhone 15 Pro or Pro Max. Now, there's no word on if the iPhone 16 quote unquote regular will be able to handle artificial intelligence, in addition to, let's just say Apple comes out as per usual. Apple will come out with a iPhone 16. They'll come out with an iPhone 16 Plus, which would be a larger version of the regular phone. Then they'll come out with an iPhone 16 Pro, and a larger version of the 16 Pro would be the 16 Pro Max. If they're coming out with those four devices, we don't know yet if the regular versions will have the ability to have the right chipset to run Apple Intelligence. I'm assuming it will, to where if you get an iPhone 16, you're guaranteed to get Apple Intelligence. But if you are the type of person who's like, I always stay a year or two back, I don't get the brand new one, well, keep that in consideration. If you want Apple Intelligence, you will have to get in 15 Pro or Pro Max.
Right, because we just want to make sure everyone knows that similar to Apple Silicon, Apple Intelligence is what I'm considering a foundational, I won't even say feature, but a foundational operating system.
Service.
Yeah, service is probably a better word. And it's one of those things that's going to be, I think, built throughout the product line, is going to continually improve, as we had M1, then you have the M1 Pro and Pro Max, and you had M2 and M3 and M4. So it's one of those things where Apple is basically setting the stage for the next generation of iPhones, and how they plan to, and not just iPhones, Apple devices, and how they plan to, move forward with their hardware and their software. So even if you're like, well, I'm not going into this, eventually when you upgrade, you are going to have to deal with Apple Intelligence, because it's definitely, like I said, foundational. So it's going to be one of those things that ultimately you're going to have to participate in on some level.
Yep. Same way with Silicon. You had to make the decision whether you're going to stay on Intel or you're going to switch to Apple Silicon.
Yep.
Same way with iPhones. You got to decide if you want to say non-Apple Intelligence iPhone, or you want to get one that does support it. So that is it. There's a bunch of features that included with Apple Intelligence. Like I said, I won't go through them all, but we will put links in the show notes. So if you definitely want to check those out, we'll put all those announcements from the Apple newsroom. So I want to keep it moving. The next thing I wanted to talk about is visionOS 2. This is the Apple Vision. Is it Apple Vision? What's the name of it?
Apple Vision Pro.
The Vision Pro. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
visionOS 2 is their newest operating system for the Vision Pro reality headset, which will visionOS 2, I'm assuming, will come out in the fall as well. And not really a lot going on with that, but they just improved on gestures for Vision Pro. Another thing that I noticed in some of the news that came out post WWDC is the fact that when you look down at your keys, like if you're using a keyboard with the Vision Pro, like an actual Magic keyboard, when you look down, it'll actually show a video or an image of you actually typing on the keyboard. So I thought that was pretty cool. They'll have different gestures for if you want to go to home, like the home screen in the Vision Pro. And if you want to go to Control Center, They've got new gestures for that.
Mm-hmm.
And they also have better display for spatial photos and spatial video. So if you do have a iPhone that can take spatial video and spatial photos, visionOS 2 does a better job of displaying that on the Vision headset. So that's pretty much the gist of visionOS 2.
It's one more thing I wanted to mention about visionOS 2. So inside the headset, you get kind of like a display screen. Mm-hmm. So, you're seeing whether it be your desktop and you move things around. They've now expanded the capabilities of the virtual display. If you've seen kind of like the curved monitors, the really big curved monitors, they've now brought that type of display into Vision Pro. So now you get like a curved view mimicking like a curved display. So it gives you more real estate to add more, windows and kind of separate them out however you want, and gives you a bigger landscape to use the virtual display.
Okay. All right. So if you spent that $3,500 plus to get the Vision Pro headsets, then you maybe want to look forward to visionOS 2. The next thing on the list is, of course, iOS 18, which is like one of the major, next to Apple Intelligence, was probably the most
anticipated.
Anticipated and feature-full announcements during the keynote. Of course, the main thing the front-facing thing that you'll see with iOS 18 is the ability to customize your not only your lock screen but your home screen. Mm-hmm. And for example, like right now, if you try to rearrange the app icons, once you let go of it, it'll either go to the top or it'll push down to the next available spot. Well, with iOS 18, you'll be able to move your app icons around and your widgets around any location on the phone. And the reason why they do that is because normally with the lock screen, they, back in iOS 17, they gave you the ability to get that big, vivid, vibrant lock screen image. Mm-hmm. But once you unlock your phone, it kind of blurs that out to where it just makes
you can barely see what your actual wallpaper is.
Right. With iOS 18, they give you the ability to show that vibrant background image as a home screen. But now you can actually move your icons around. So if you've got like your kid's face, right, you can move the icons at the top and you can move the icons and the widgets at the bottom. So you can still have that main picture in view. So that's like the main front facing thing that Apple announced with iOS 18. A couple other features include the ability to tint and change the colors of the app icons. So if you've got like in the press release, they've got a picture of a woman in this flowy red dress. And with iOS 18, you can have the ability to tint the app icons that red color in that red dress to kind of match. So it all kind of looks and blends together. So if you've got like a frog, if you love frogs, and you take a picture of a frog and you got a frog as your home screen, you can tint all of the app icons to that green, to a greenish color to kind of match the image that you're using for the home screen. That was
if you remember, I can't remember, was it iOS 17? And people were selling custom icons. And people were customizing their home screen to match an aesthetic or, whatever. Mm-hmm. And this to me is kind of filling that need of because it did take a little bit of work and configuration to get those icons in. To get it to look. It made it look like it was easy to do. And it's like, nope, it actually takes a bit of effort. So I think this is Apple's way of saying, okay, we hear you. We saw that there was a need and a desire for you to customize your phones and your devices more to you. Because people like an aesthetic. I love an aesthetic as well. So this is their way with
my 14-year-old went through the process. She loves blue. So she went through the process to to add all the blue to her home screen and lock screen. And she used I think it's like a Widget Smith is an app that you can download.
It is.
and then you had to make shortcuts. So I was like, all right, I see you. But now the Apple's like, all right, we taking that now. We're gonna
do it.
We're gonna integrate that into iOS 18. So
and still within the Apple control, it's still like we're gonna loosen the reins, but we're not gonna give you everything. We're gonna give you a little bit. To kind of give you what you're looking for, but we're not going to give you over the complete range. So I think that's one of those things that they saw and heard from their customers, and implemented it in their own way. And I do appreciate that, because I am an aesthetic girly and I like things to match. So this is right up my alley for sure.
Yep. Speaking of customizations, Control Center, you can add more icons to the Control Center, and you can also create Control Center themes. So you can go from like your main Control Center to like a music Control Center that'll show you the current music playing. It'll show you the controls for the music. It'll show you the ability to select different speakers. So if you've got like HomePods or you've got other AirPlay enabled speakers, you can create a Control Center theme that's just music. You can go down and create like a Control Center theme for your home. Like this would be up my alley, to where I've got a lot of home controls. I can make a custom Control Center screen just for all of my favorite home controls. So for instance, like my podcast lights and my bedroom lights, I can make a custom theme just for that. And you can go through and do a couple other ones. You can add, like I said, they're given more ability for third-party developers to integrate into the Control Center with iOS 18. So I thought that was a cool thing. Those two buttons at the bottom, I think a lot of people will like this. On the lock screen, you can add the option to add like two buttons at the bottom, and the two buttons are the camera and the flashlight. Well, with iOS 18, they give you the ability to change those to pretty much whatever, to create a quick note, to whatever you can think of, you can
whatever feature you use the most, you can likely put it as these two little icons on the lock screen.
Yeah. One of the things that I asked for, that Apple has decided to do for iOS 18, to give you more customization of the action button if you have an iPhone 15, so you can get you a much more buttons that you can add to that. Let's see, a couple other things. Of course, with photos, it gives you the ability. I don't know if I mentioned this at the Apple Intelligence, but it makes sense to announce it here. With the Photos app, it gives you the ability to that cleanup function. So if you look at the Google Pixel videos, they show those cool videos of you being able to circle things in the background and erase them. I think Google calls it the Magic Pixel. I think that's what they call it. Well, Apple calls it cleanup, and you can kind of do the same. You can do the same thing. If you've got like an object or a person that's kind of messing up your perfect shot, you can circle around it, and they'll quote unquote clean up some of those images. Another thing that I am looking forward to, because I have a ton of pictures of my kids and of my family, and every time we do something, for instance, like we went to Mexico for spring break. And every time I tell the family, I'm like, look, take all these pictures, make sure you put all the pictures that you took into the quote unquote spring break album, because I'm going to make a slideshow and I'm going to make a video. And every year I don't. So I'm interested to see how well Apple does with creating those memories. They call them collections. They're making it easier for you to actually. And of course, it's using the Apple Intelligence to pull all the images that you've taken in a similar place, or at a similar day, at a similar time, or at a similar location. And they're making that collections and memories feature more robust and more customizable. So I can actually, make it easier to me to create those photo albums. Because every time I'll look into my photos and I see those memories, and it's like, oh man, I was supposed to do that. Now Apple's making it a little bit easier to do that. A little bit
easier, right?
So maybe I won't have to, I'll just, depend on Apple.
It'll build it out for you. It'll
exactly
get all those images and kind of collate them together, pick a song for you and everything, and say, hey, you go.
A couple other things, of course, with messages, they kind of on the slide, I think Tim Cook may have said it in passing, but it is RCS support
compatible,
for messages. So if you have Android brethren that you want to include in a group chat, you can now include, well, not now, when iOS 18 releases, you'll be able to include them in a group chat and they'll get the same functionality, not the same, similar functionality.
A better. Yeah.
Right. And I don't want to say the same. You know, for instance, like in iOS, you know, you can send a message and say, hey, I'm on the way. And instead of you saying, all right, thanks for telling me, you can like do the tap backs and do like a thumbs up to let them know you received it. Well, if you are doing that in a group chat with an Android person, they're not going to see that. They're going to see something totally different. Well, now with some of those tap backs will be included if you have an Android, if you're messaging with an Android person, because they now support RCS. So you'll get better photos, you'll get better videos, you'll get better emotions, you'll get better emojis, and you'll get those better tap backs now that Apple has decided to include RCS or support RCS in messages.
Yeah, he just threw that in there because if you remember, we've talked about this before. Google was begging Apple to do it, trying to bully them into doing it. I think Facebook was trying to bully them into doing it. And I think Apple had the capability the whole time, but they were like, nobody's going to rush us and tell us when to do it or what to do it. We're going to do it when we want to.
And not only that, we're not going to do it your way, because Google for the longest they were not just pushing RCS. They were pushing Google's version of RCS. What Apple has done,
which they knew was stupid, that Apple wasn't going to do that. Like, what?
So what Apple did was, well, we're going to adopt the carrier's standard RCS. So AT&T, T-Mobile, Sprint, you know, all those other ones that they support RCS as well. Apple was like, all right, we're going to support that standard coming from the carriers. We're not going to accept or support Google's version, which if you have an Android and you use a carrier, you'll automatically be included in the Apple's version. Now, if you decide to do Google RC or whatever Google's calling it, you know, then, you know, you got to decide, or the compatibility. I'm not sure about all that. I'm just telling you that, you know, if you have an Android,
they support the carrier version of RCS, not specifically the Google version of RCS. So it's definitely, anyway, it wasn't going to be a one-to-one, and it's definitely not even more going to be a specific one-to-one with Google. So you wanted support, you got it. It may not be the way you want it, but at least you got it if you were really on that wave. But
one of the cool things that I thought was pretty cool, well, I've been using in my own way, but Apple's decided to support it, is they have launched in iOS 18 a passwords app that's going to look a little bit nicer, and it'll be an actual app. Because what I did was, when Apple announced password capabilities, I actually created a shortcut. I used Apple's shortcut and created almost like an app icon that says that I named passwords. And basically what it is a script. So when I click on the passwords icon, it runs this script that says, open up iPhone settings, scroll down to the password iCloud, and then go to the password section and then open that up. So that's kind of like my passwords app. Well, now with iOS 18, they've actually built and created the password app. Of course, they're using Apple Keychain, but it's more cleaned up. It's more, it's more of an app feel.
And less steps, because you have to go to settings, then you got to scroll down to passwords. And
Yep. So you don't have to do that. It's a separate app. Again, it'll give you the ability to utilize Keychain. It'll synchronize across your iPad, your Mac, things of that nature. And it'll give you the ability, for those who don't use it, you can create two-factor authentication for certain apps and certain websites. You know, all that's included in the Passwords app, which Apple is looking to replace, or serious competition at the least, for the LastPasses and the 1Passwords that are currently people are using. Because if you're already using an iPhone, and you're already using Apple iOS 18, and you're already using Keychain for like Safari, you know, a lot of people may not be using the passwords functionality on the device, but if they use Safari to save passwords, you're using Keychain. So there's like, just come on in and use the ecosystem all the way through and just adopt the Passwords app. So that's one of the features I wanted to highlight. Another cool one I wanted to highlight is in Safari. So if you use Safari versus Chrome versus Bing, or I can't think of the other one, Firefox, I think. Yeah, Firefox. If you're using Safari and you're going through like a website and they've got a contact location, you know, in the past, it would underline it. You can actually call from the website. Well, iOS is taking that a step further, and they're surfacing additional relevant information. For example, if there's an address on the website and you use Safari and you use Apple Maps, in Safari, it'll automatically surface the address and the ability to click directions to get directions to it, versus what you normally have to do is copy the address, open up the Maps app, and then paste the address in there and then get directions that way. So if you're on a website looking for, address to the event, you don't have to go through all the steps. It'll automatically surface that information for you. So I thought that was cool. There's a couple other things that, of course, one of the things as it relates to security, if you like download an app like TikTok for the first time, it'll ask you, do you want to, it'll remind you heavily to include contacts, share your contacts with TikTok so you can see who else is on TikTok so you can automatically follow them. Well, what you don't want to do, you may not want to do that. So Apple is giving you the ability and is giving you more security to where when these apps ask for your contacts, Apple will put that barrier in front of them and say, hey, do you want this website or you want this app to access your contacts? Do you want to give them all contacts, or do you want to actually select some of the contacts that you want? So if you know there are 4 or 5 people that's currently on TikTok that you want to make sure you find, you can just share those contacts, as opposed to what TikTok wants you to do. For example, I'm not saying just TikTok does this, but for example, TikTok wants you to share all your contacts so they can have all that information, so they can, algorithm, what they need to do. Well, Apple is giving you, being that middleman, that gatekeeper for your contacts. And similar like to back in the day when Apple said we launched that Ask app not to track you, they give you that option when you download a new app. The app wants to follow all your activity from the browser to the app to wherever the case may be. Apple's going a little bit step further with the contacts as well. So I'm pretty sure there are many of the developers like, damn it, Apple, they're cutting off all of our free data that we've been getting from people for all these years.
Right. You're really, putting, with this latest version, they're really going to put a lot of people, I won't say out of business, but I think it will do a bit of a ding, particularly on the password side of things, from some of those companies that do this. They're really honing in on some of the features that we all care about, and providing them natively. Again, there are people who won't upgrade, but for a chunk of people, it's like, hey, bud, what are you doing? You're taking away some of my stuff.
Right. And, my thing is, I'm already paying for the phone. I'm already paying for the Apple services. Why then spend more money for another service that Apple already supports, that's included in the purchase of the phone and included in the subscriptions for the services for Apple? It's like, I might as well use that. There are some people legitimately so say, nah, I don't want one company to have all this information, because if something happens, I'm losing everything. I'm of the mind of, it's much more easier to consolidate all this into one package. And if you are the other way and you think that I want my picture separate, and I want my email separate, and I want my contacts separate, and I want my calendar separate, that's fine. Just know that Apple is, making sure that that we offer that too. And it's already included. So, if you want to use it, then, we're trying to make your life a whole lot easier and more secure, because we've heard about some of these password managers with all this security and all this privacy getting hacked on a regular. So, you got to take that in consideration as well. Yep. So again, there's a whole, go ahead. No,
I was just going to say 2 quick things left for me. I just had a deja vu when I said something about, hey, buddy. And then you said something. I was like, that's a complete deja vu. But the other thing is, I want to say, I think we talked about this a few weeks ago. There was a feature that they were supposed to be bringing into iPhone that was similar to Vision Pro with the eye tracking. They didn't talk about that.
Oh, so, that's something that you was looking for, right?
Yeah. Well, and I'm like, hey.
Well, not with the eye tracking, but we were going to get down to it, but we might as well jump into it now with the AirPods. The AirPods Pro gives you the ability with the gestures. So if you're in a subway or you're when you're in a busy place and you get a phone call and you've got announce calls turned on and Siri says, hey, you have an incoming phone call from Terrence, but you may not want to answer it right now. and your hands may be full, so you can't get your finger up to tap the whatever. With the AirPods Pro and the newer versions, newer firmware, you'll be able to shake your head yes to answer the call, or you can shake your head no. For those listening, you have to pretend I'm shaking my head up and down. But for my, Patreon supporters who are watching this live, you can actually shake your head yes, and it'll actually answer the call for you without you having to say answer and sounding weird.
Or tap the little
yeah. So they're adding that. So while it's not doing eye tracking, it's not tracking your iOS, is not tracking your eyes to unlock and open things. It's using gestures, on a smaller scale. So
yeah,
and that's
maybe they'll surprise me and bring it.
Yeah. So that's pretty much the gist of it. There are a couple other features like the ability to tap the cache from device to device, without
having to share.
Yeah. Without having to share contacts, without having to share personal information. Like if
that probably would have helped that lady who got scammed by the kids with the candy.
Yeah, exactly. Making that a little bit more secure. That's pretty much it. Oh, the one thing that I applauded Apple for, like we mentioned in the top of the show, in the pre-show, the ability to integrate reminders into the calendar app. So basically what happens is I have reminders that I just have regular reminders that anytime I open the reminders app, it'll show me a list of, those things I need to do, a checklist, if you will. But there are also some reminders that I put dates and times to, like, for instance, subscriptions. Like if I open a subscription and start it and I'm not sure I want to keep it, I immediately say, hey, remind me to cancel this subscription 28 days from now, right? I've put a date to that subscription, right? So with this new integration with iOS 18 in the calendar, anytime I open up the calendar and I look at all the schedule of things, some of those reminders that have a date and a time to them will integrate into the calendar and I can check them off, or just remind me that, in addition to going to the dentist, in addition to picking the kids up, I have that reminder to cancel the subscription on this day. So that's just a cool feature that I've been waiting for the longest, because I couldn't figure out, beside myself with amazement as to how Apple has never included that. But they have finally. So
finally,
that's a check off my list. All right, getting into iPadOS 18, probably the most interesting thing, the most, for whatever reason, beloved thing, revered thing that Apple included into iPadOS 18 is the standalone calculator app. I mean, I guess if that's what you were waiting for, if you need a huge, gigantic calculator, now you got it in iPadOS 18. But Apple does what Apple does. Instead of just giving you a feature that you've been begging for years, they up the ante. And basically what they call it is math notes. Mm-hmm. So like if you're in the Notes app and you are writing out equations, you can write with the Apple Pencil the equal sign, and the math notes will automatically calculate and give you the answer. So if you are a college student or a high school student or a middle school student with an iPad, you will definitely appreciate this. One of the ways that I can see using that feature, and I mentioned it earlier this week, is my daughter has a birthday coming up. She'll be 14 next week. And as per usual, we tell her to put all your birthday wish list items in a Apple Note and share it with the family, so we can actually pick and choose what we want to get you for your birthday. But what me and my wife do is we make sure we put prices next to all this stuff. So with the Math Notes app, we've got prices for all the items that she wants. At the bottom, I can draw a line under all the tallies, which equates to the equal sign, and it'll automatically tally up all those items and give you a big a one cost at the bottom.
Nice round number.
Yeah, at the bottom. We can decide if that's what we want to do or not. So that's how I see using the Math Notes in the new that comes with the new calculator app. So they did a couple other features like showing you how you can create graphs, and if you change a variable in an equation, it'll automatically update with the right calculation, the right answer to the equation. So for those people who are math nerds or people looking to get some help in school, definitely the math notes and the calculator will definitely help out a lot. Outside of that, the only other thing I wanted to note about the iPadOS 18 is the ability for it to, they call it Smart Script. And basically what that is if you have terrible handwriting, like if you're using the Apple Pencil and the Apple, I'm not going to say no names, but my wife, she has terrible handwriting. And so with iPadOS 18, she'll be able to write in her handwriting in the Notes app, and the Notes app will clean up for better for a better case. It'll clean it up to where it's more legible. Almost to where it'll create your own personalized font based on how you write. So if it notices that you write your D's a certain way, or your A's or your I's or whatever the case may be, it'll kind of learn how you do that and create like a smart script, your own little font that will be, recognizable. And the cool thing about it is when you copy like content from a website and you paste that into the notes, it'll actually paste it in that smart script versus pasting it as text, which will kind of mess up your whole aesthetic for your notes. So I just thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, this is where your machine learning comes in.
Right.
Because it can take the curvature. And this is where, from like the math notes, I'm interested to play with this because I want to see how complex I can get with the equations for it to give me an answer. But it's one of those things where it can calculate the curve of something to figure out what the letter is and where one word begins or another one ends. Because if you write in chicken scratch and you write kind of fast, words that kind of close together, it's able to determine, how to group the correct letters for the word. And it can take your, chicken scratch and angles where it should be curves and, make it nice and neat and legible for anyone who's trying to see it.
Yep. In addition to that, of course, same thing with the lock screen and the home screen and the customizing of the icons and the tint and things like that. That's included in iPadOS 18. Another thing that I didn't mention in iOS 18 that I'll just announce here is the ability to schedule text messages. So if you want to wish somebody a happy birthday and their birthday ain't up until tomorrow, but you're going to forget, you can go ahead and, write happy birthday. Hope you have a wonderful day or whatever. And then, it'll give you the option to schedule that text message to go out at a later date. So I just thought that was pretty cool. And
making your life easier. That's what we need these devices and this technology to do. Make it a little bit easier.
Absolutely. So if you add, of course, Apple Intelligence to an iPad, you just got a bigger canvas for writing, for creating those illustrations, to integrate into Keynote and all those different presentations, things of that nature. And, that's pretty much it. I can't think of anything else separate of the iPad that isn't included for iOS 18. So that's pretty much the gist of everything announced in iPadOS 18. We're going to move into watchOS 11. Not a whole lot there, but they did kind of split out some of the things that you can track on your Apple Watch. For instance, one of the things that they announced is vitals. So instead of in the health app on your Apple Watch, you see all your separate apps that give you your heart rate, or you can check your blood oxygen level. Those will be split out in a separate vitals app. So you can kind of see those and track those. In addition to cycle tracking and pregnancy tracking, all of that will be included in the vitals app. And then there was another one called training load. And basically what that does is gives you the ability to kind of see how you're exercising, see how you're working out, and it'll measure your heart rate. It'll measure your output, and it'll kind of give you a baseline. And if you are operating below or above that training load, and you can kind of see that and visualize that to where to give you better indications on whether I need to work a little bit harder to match my previous training load, or I'm a little bit too high and I may need to tamper it down a little bit so I don't overexert myself. They're adding that into that training load. So it's just a new way to be able to see and track your anything that you're tracking. So I wanted to outline that. That's pretty much it in watchOS 11. I'm pretty sure there's a couple other things. The ability to add different third-party apps to the stack. At watchOS 10 announced that stack to where once you roll the digital crown, you can customize certain information. So you're giving you more ability to customize that stack. And that's pretty much it that I can think of for watchOS 11. Of course, they've got more things that you can customize in Apple Fitness Plus. That kind of goes hand in hand with the watch app. When you're exercising, the ability to add, like I mentioned with the stacks, to add check-in. So if you are out and about and you want to let somebody know when you're going to check in for safety or whatever the case may be, you can add that to the watchOS app. And that is about it for watchOS 11.
So it's pretty light on watchOS.
Yeah, same thing with iOS to tap to cache. You can do the same thing with the watch. Another thing that I didn't announce in iOS 18 that you can do on the Apple Watch is enhanced ticketing. So basically what that is, if you bought a ticket to a movie or you bought a ticket to a concert or a sporting event, in addition of just pulling up the ticket itself, it'll surface information like what time the event starts, what time concessions or what gate you need to go at based on your ticket, based on your seat. It'll tell you what gate you need to go to, the quickest gate, things of that nature. So I thought that was pretty cool. And that is pretty much it for watchOS 11. I guess we can move into macOS Sequoia, which is the new name for macOS. What was the version before that?
We're on Sonoma now.
Yes, we're on Sonoma. Now they've moved up to Sequoia. And basically Yep, exactly. When they were announcing it, I was thinking Redwood. I thought I was going to call it macOS Redwood, but it was macOS. I was like, oh, macOS Sequoia is better.
Yeah, sounds better.
Yeah. But with macOS Sequoia, of course, all the things that I mentioned in iOS and iPadOS 11 are coming to macOS Sequoia. I'm sorry, 18, iOS 18 and iPadOS 18. I want to make sure I get it right. Same of those features are coming to macOS Sequoia. One of the cool new things that's coming is screen mirroring. So basically how this works is if you're in front of your Mac and you need to access something on your iPhone, but your iPhone is not at your desk, it's not in your back pocket, maybe it's in your purse, or maybe it's in another room, or maybe it's in a bag and it's locked. With the screen mirroring is you can actually open up, air quotes, open up your iPhone as a screen on your Mac, and you can actually control your iPhone while your phone is still locked. So let's just say the phone is in another room and your wife or your husband is sitting there. They won't necessarily see what you're doing on your iPhone because your screen will stay locked on your phone. But on the screen of macOS Sequoia, you'll be able to go through and control, like open up apps, that aren't necessarily on your Mac. So if there's a specific iPhone app that you want to quickly open up and check something that they don't have a corresponding Mac app for, you can actually use the screen mirroring to access that particular app. One of the cool things, you can drag and drop pictures. So like if you need to pull a picture off your iPhone and open it up into your Mac, you can actually use a screen mirroring and drag and drop the photo from your phone, air quotes, from your phone screen to the actual Mac. So you can then send that off as an email or add it into a illustration or something that you're drawing. Let's see. That's pretty much this. Oh, there's another thing. Stage Manager is terrible. I try to use it. It
was so promising when they first announced it. I mean, we were all going up for it.
I turn it on and try to use it, and then I just get frustrated and I just quickly turn it right back off. Well, what Apple has done with macOS Sequoia is they've created tiling, so you can actually create quadrants, for lack of a better term, to where instead of just being able to get two screens, one half of your screen is one application and another half is the other application, or you're using Stage Manager to where it kind of stacks all the open applications to the left or to the right, and you got to thumb through those. With the tiling feature, you can actually make boxes smaller. You can adjust the windows for applications that you frequently use to where you can have like 4 apps open at the same time, and they equally sized up to different quadrants on your Mac. So we'll see if that is a little bit better than Stage Manager. Hopefully so. I'm definitely interested to see how that works when you have multiple screens, because the problem I was having with Stage Manager is it works if you're just on your Mac screen. But as soon as you add an external monitor or two, that's when Stage Manager, I can't drag and drop. I can't drag application windows as seamlessly as I can if it's just one monitor. So
I wonder if it works better with an Apple display, but I don't know who's paying that.
Yeah,
those Apple displays are crazy expensive.
Yeah, buddy.
But I'm thinking it may work better with Apple branded, Apple created displays. But outside of that, it's not great. But
Right.
I have to say I was most excited about the iPhone mirroring because you can physically drag and drop files from your Mac onto your mirrored iPhone that's actually on your iPhone once you finally get to it. I think it's going to make it a lot easier for unmuted use cases. And so I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, I can envision using it for instance, across all the social media platforms I have access to. I have access to all mine. I have access to the show's podcast, social media handles. I've got another social podcast, the Tech John, that I have access to. So the ability to, instead of just reaching for my phone every time I need to update social media with something, to be able to use the screen mirroring to actually post a social media update, without having to jump through all the different accounts on my phone. I could definitely see a use to that. Another way I could use it is, since I'm the techie of the family, I can do a screen recording of my Mac and then open up screen mirroring and actually do like a walkthrough of how you open something, how you download something, how you share something. And then I can actually share that video with somebody, versus before, in order to do that, I got to open up. I got to make sure continuity is turned on. And then I got to make sure I got to open QuickTime Player. And then I got to start a new movie recording. And then I got to select my iPhone as the
bunch of steps.
A bunch of steps. With the screen mirroring, I can actually just do a quick walkthrough, do a screen record, and then share that. So I can definitely see myself using that feature. Other than that, that's pretty much it as far as separate applications for macOS Sequoia. The last thing I wanted to talk about was, we talked about it already, the AirPods, where you can do the gestures. And then there are a couple other features that I kind of wanted to go over. There was Apple did almost like a press release of all the different things that they may not have announced during the keynote. For instance, if you are using Apple Pay and there are some rewards or something on a specific credit card that you've loaded into Apple Pay will enable you to use some of those additional features on your credit card. Like if you have Chase, and Chase had these special rewards or something like that, to where you get cash back, or you can apply those rewards points to a purchase, where you can kind of all manage all that inside of Apple Pay when you actually go to pay for things. And it gives you the ability to add other, what do they call those things? To where you can pay later. That's what they call them, pay later.
Oh,
so, like
Apple Pay later.
Right. Instead of just only using Apple Pay later, they're giving you the ability to use things like Affirm. The only one I saw, but the only one I saw that they mentioned in this feature is Affirm.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's just Affirm to start.
Right. So that's something I wanted to highlight. A couple other things I wanted to highlight. Like we talked about the tap to cash, and basically to kind of better highlight that is, with tap to cash, users are able to send and receive Apple Cash by holding two iPhone devices together without having to share phone numbers. For example, tap to cash can be used to pay someone back at a dinner or buy something at a garage sale, which we just had a garage sale over this week. And this would have came in handy to be able to tap the cash, because the way we think to push the two phones together, like AirDrop, you either have to be in their contacts list, or you got to turn off that allow AirDrop from everyone for 15 minutes. You actually
turn it back off.
Right. You have to remember to do that. Right.
Yeah.
With tap to cash, you're just making that transaction without having to jump through those extra steps.
Yep.
Let's see, something else. We talked about the enhanced tickets. So if you buy a ticket, it'll give you what gate to go through. It'll give you directions, your ability to show up an event guide. So if there's like a schedule of things that happen, if you're going to a sporting event, you'll be able to see all that. That's about it. With Apple TV, we didn't mention Apple TV at all, but one of the things they did do is similar to like, I don't know of any other services that do this, but I'll break it down. So like if you're watching a movie and you want to find out what actor or actress that is, this feature called Insight will enable you to be able to pop that up quickly so you can see who's the director, I don't know, who's the executive producer, who's the actors, without having to pause the movie. And then kind of sometimes you can do it if you go more info, and then you got to pause it and go more info, and you got to go to cast and characters. With this Insight feature, you'll be able to do that much faster. And also if they're playing music, it'll recognize the music that's playing, and it'll give you the ability to add that to your library. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Again, making life easier.
Right. And that's about it for all those additional features. So I guess the question is, was there any one or two features that you find yourself looking forward to the most when all these new software enhancements drop?
I'm looking forward to the customization.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to the iPhone mirroring.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to the password apps. I think the password app, I'm thinking those are probably my three favorites as of now.
All right. I'm definitely looking forward to Apple Intelligence. And I say that because I've been fighting.
That's a given.
Well, in addition to that, I've kind of known that Apple was going to do something big as far as all of their current services. Mm-hmm. And for that reason, I've been forcing myself in some cases. In most cases, it's, it's a benefit. But in some cases, like for instance, the reminders, there are many more robust, more feature packed to do apps and task managers out there other than reminders.
Yeah. I've
been forcing myself to use reminders. Let me see a couple other ones. I've been, as of late, switching from LastPass to the password manager in iCloud. I've been, like I told you before, I made a shortcut, did all these things so I can treat the passwords manager as an app. I've been forcing myself to do things like this because I knew I had in the back of my mind, it's going to pay off. There's a reason why I'm forcing myself to use all of these native apps, Safari over Chrome, the list goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
So now, in addition to that, right, using Apple's authenticator for two-factor authentication. There are apps out there that just do two-factor authentication. I've been forcing myself to use Apple's. I've been forcing myself to use, what's another one I was going to say? Anyway, I can't think of it, but because I knew it was going to pay off. So I'm interested to see now that payoff, now that Apple Intelligence is going to be able to use all that information, use all that data, and surface it in a way that's going to enhance what I do on a daily basis. So I just think that my due diligence from using all these native apps and using all of Apple's services when I had other options, and in some cases when I had even better options like Mail, for example, I forced myself to use the native Mail app versus Google versus Fast Mail versus Spark. I think Spark is a mail app that is so much better than the native Mail app, but I was like, nope. There's a reason
I'm going to use it.
I'm going to stick beside them. So now I'm interested to see how my payoff is going to be now that Apple hasn't introduced they've
been training on all of your data all this time. Right. So let's see how good it is.
Right. So now I'm going to see how this payoff on how Apple's going to make my life much better now that I've given them all of my data, all of my time, all of my effort.
Right.
All right. So if that's it. Nick, if you don't have anything else that you wanted to highlight or anything you wanted to give a nod to from WWDC. Oh, have you been going to any of the developer sessions since you are the developer, the Apple developer of the group?
So I have not. If you are a Patreon supporter, you know specifically why, but I've had some other things going on. It's been a very tech heavy activity events week for me. My little tech girl heart is like exploding because all the things. So I haven't had the chance yet, but I am. There were some sessions that I kind of highlighted in the app that I want to go back and take a look at, because honestly, from Monday to today, which is Wednesday when we're recording, even still digesting all of the stuff from the keynote, I haven't even been able to fully digest the platform State of the Union, which is basically a deeper dive of what was discussed at the keynote for developers. So it's just so much, and it's so many things swimming in there. I think it's like I'm at the point now I was like, let me kind of, let things marinate, especially since I'm, doing all these other tech things this week. Give myself a chance to be in the moment with the stuff that I have going on now, and then take a look at some of the sessions from the actual conference. But I definitely will let you guys know what my favorite sessions are.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for us this week. Nika, tell the folks where they can find you.
You can find me at Tech Savvy Diva everywhere.
And you can find me at Brother Tech. That's BrothaTech. If you want to keep up with the show, you want to find out our social media handles, you want to be a part of the Patreon community, we lovingly call them the Snobbists. If you want to get the information on when we drop new episodes, if you want to listen to new episodes, definitely go to snoboscast.com to get all those details. And until next week, we are out. Peace.
Bye, everybody.